welcome to Grace College. How's your week been so far?
I've had a very good week, Mr. Mayor, so thank you very much for that kind invitation, and good morning, Year 10.
And we're thinking about our futures. We're thinking about currently halfway through Year 10. You were once in Year 10. I mean, what do you remember about that particular period of your education?
I remember thinking about the kind of career that I wanted to pursue, but I also remember thinking about the kinds of subjects that I might want to study at school that would put me in the best position that I could. I have a confession to make. I was a fanatical footballer, and I have to say that it was very often very tempting to go out onto the football field and spend all of my time playing football. But I realized that you could play football and you could carry on with your studies. And actually, I managed to do that all the way through.
That's great to hear. Now, Grace College is a very successful footballing school.
I know that.
And we've had teams in the semi-final of the County Cup and the finals of the County Cup. And I just heard this morning that Year 10 are doing really well in that. So any footballers out there, you know, we're really cheering you on, and we congratulate you on your endeavours. Now, following school, what happened next for you?
Well, I went to Glasgow University. And I'd always wanted to be a primary school teacher. Now, that was quite unusual where I grew up, because the primary schools in Scotland, actually the case in England as well, had largely a female workforce. But I was always very keen to be a primary school teacher. So I went to Glasgow University. I did a degree. And then I went to train as a teacher. So I did a one-year course as a teacher and then began teaching in, and you might not believe this with my accent, I went to teach in Glasgow.
Glasgow. Glasgow's a great city. And
it's a great city, far better than Edinburgh.
And so currently, Sir David, you are the Vice Chancellor and the Chief Executive Officer of Sunderland University. We've got our Chief Executive Officer of Emmanuel Schools Foundation. You'll all recognise Professor Pike. What does that mean, though, in the context of Sunderland? So what's the Vice Chancellor and what does the CEO do?
Well, the Vice Chancellor is quite an interesting title, because the Vice Chancellor is in charge of the university. I suppose Mr. Hall is the equivalent as the principal of the school. So you might say, well, why are you called the Vice Chancellor? Mr. Hall's not the vice principal. And the President of the United States isn't the Vice President. So why is the Vice Chancellor the Vice Chancellor? Well, it all goes back into history. So when the universities were first established, they were run by the church. And the church used to appoint a bishop to be the chancellor. But of course, the bishop was very busy. And the bishop travelled a lot. And you know what it was like? You couldn't travel a long distance, and you didn't have the internet, you couldn't keep in touch. So the chancellor appointed the vice chancellor to run the university. And then over time, that became the case. So the vice chancellor is the person who runs the university. Now, we still have a chancellor, but the chancellor is a kind of ceremonial figure, somebody who stands for the university. Now, our last chancellor was somebody that you might have heard of. His name is Steve Cram, and he was a very famous international athlete, and you might still see him as a commentator on the BBC. And our current chancellor is an international musician called Emily Sandé, who is our chancellor. And she, interesting story, born in Sunderland, because her mum and dad were students at the university, and they met at the university, and Emily was born in Sunderland. So we have her as our chancellor. I always say to Emily, I do the hard work. She does the singing, I do the hard work.
And so Sunderland's one of our local universities.
It is.
And it's just down the road, really. It's very accessible via the metro, and we can get buses there fairly easily from Gateshead. It may be a university that you are considering. We know that there are many, many courses to complete to undertake at Sunderland University. As one of our local universities, as one of the kind of closest options for us, could you just tell us a little bit about Sunderland University and maybe some of the options that are available and what Sunderland's maybe well known for?
Well, I'll start with what do we do at Sunderland? We have a whole range of courses. We're a very big health university. So we have a medical school and we take 100 student doctors every year. It's very tough to get into medical school. So anyone in this room who's thinking about medicine as a career, you got to work really hard to become a medic. Actually, we also do nursing. And I'll tell you another incredibly popular course, a course that is so popular that we've closed entry for this September. So you can't even get in now. And that's paramedic science. So being a paramedic is an incredibly popular career. It's a demanding career, my goodness. It's a really demanding career. That's very popular. We do pharmacy. Some of you might be interested in pharmacy. We do, and people who've got a sports background might be interested in this, we do physiotherapy. We do occupational therapy. So we do virtually everything that's related to health. We also have teaching. We train a lot of teachers, about 1,000 teachers a year we're training. We do engineering. We do computer science, we do law, we do business, we do tourism, we do pretty well any subject that's got an applied focus. It's a university that educates you for a really good career. And then you asked us about, well, how many people have we got? Well, in Sunderland, we have about 11,500 students. But we also have a campus in London where we have about 4,500 students. We have a campus in Hong Kong. We are the only British university that owns and runs directly a campus in Hong Kong of about 1,000 students. And then we have lots of students in other countries who are studying for University of Sunderland qualifications. So if you add all of those numbers up, across the world, there are about 23,500 students who are studying for University of Sunderland qualifications. But as you are right, Mr. Mayor, we're very local, and actually that suits a lot of our students to be at a local university doing courses that will prepare them for some great careers.